All right, you wanna see something? Look here. Gotta get a little closer. A little closer. I already did this once before and it didn't actually work. I couldn't get it in focus. All right. Ooh. So you ready for this? Look here. The wildlife of today's visa. Ready? Here we are on this fine November day, out in the cold, gloves on. I want to talk about some books which I don't see a lot of. They must be rather difficult to write, but I'd like to see more of them. And those are books for people who are interested in Jesus, interested in Western spirituality. I gotta catch my breath after running. I really am more in shape than that actually would make it seem. So, books that are for people who are interested in Jesus, interested in Western spirituality, but who are not quite ready to own up to that, and who certainly aren't in the middle of all of that. And there are not a lot, I will admit, a lot of books that I could freely recommend to people who find themselves in that situation. And today, I want to talk about one which I can recommend. As you can see, I'm walking around here, and this is completely new for me. This is really the kind of vlog style of videos. I've attempted it in the past and with gear that wasn't really suited to it, and it was, well, certainly on the technical side, a large failure. A being who is, wow, that's pretty bright on me here. That won't work. You can shut off the Wi-Fi, though the iPad's not a very good example, but actually, that's really the issue. Street sweeper. So we'll see. I'm not sure I'm gonna do a lot of these vlog type things here with me walking around on today's visa. It's a little awkward, and I'm not sure that there's much value to it. Over there, the white tent is our COVID testing station. It has a whole lot more to do now than it really has for most of the year. What I just did there, and which is calling out the fact that I'm making videos, that I have particular kinds of gear, a particular style that I'm doing, this sort of vlogging type, is something that the book that I want to recommend actually does as well. In this case, as a writer, I was talking with a man named Eugene Peterson who said, hey, you should read this guy, Tomáš Halík. You're in Europe and you're interested in the same sorts of things that he's interested in, and yeah, check him out. So I got his book, Patient with God. I had to check the title. He's actually a professor at the Charles University and also a Roman Catholic priest, which he became when under the communist regime, had to do it secretly. It's a rather interesting story. Couldn't even tell his mother that he was being ordained. So here's the book, Patience with God, subtitled The Story of Zacchaeus Continuing in Us. Zacchaeus is the theme of the book. He takes the story, which is not very long, and uses it as an extended metaphor throughout the book, supposedly like Henry Nouwen did in his book, Return of the Prodigal Son, or something like that. I think that's what the book is called. Really useful metaphor, because he thinks of Zacchaeus as somebody who is symbolic of what you find a lot of in Europe. That is, people who want to find out more about Jesus, but don't really want to be right in the middle of things. And if you remember the story of Zacchaeus, Zacchaeus comes into the crowd. Jesus is going through the town of Jericho, and Zacchaeus doesn't want to stand out in front of the crowd to see Jesus, so he climbs a tree. And Tomáš Halík says that the tree and the leaves symbolize Zacchaeus' interest in being there, being a part of the scene, checking out Jesus and the people who are following Jesus, but still wants to remain hidden by the leaves, still wants to remain at a distance. I often think of people looking in the windows of churches or anywhere where Jesus is still celebrated, talked about, and these are fringe people. And one of the things that I really like about the book is the posture that Halík takes. He's writing to these fringe people on one hand, to the Zacchaeuses, but he says, I too am in a similar sort of position where I am still trying to figure out Jesus. I am still trying to figure out God. Still don't really know who he is, what he's about, and I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn from people who are atheists, people who are agnostics, people who are skeptics, who have a lot of doubts and perhaps not a lot of beliefs. He says he wants to be an understanding neighbor for those who keep their distance. And I think that's a wonderful posture, and really is quite true of the type of book that he's written. Another thing that's really good about this book is the style. I really like his style of rhetoric. It's not a classic way of writing where you have all your illustrations and you have your 4 points and you lay them out. It's more meandering, and he uses great illustrations, great metaphors, does some great quoting of a wide variety of people: Nietzsche, Kierkegaard, Pascal, Augustine, Therese of Lisieux. Lots of really fascinating people in here. A lot of people I don't know because he comes out of the Roman Catholic world, and that's not necessarily my world. So it's wonderful learning about these different people and how they think, but it just makes for a much more entertaining book. It probably is an attempt to speak to not academics as Tomáš Halík is, but to speak to regular people, but it's regular people who have some sort of literary background, and I think that's really important. The third thing that I like, and is obviously the reason why I recommend the book, is its content. There's a lot of content, not that it's a very long book, but Halík has a lot of really important things to say, so I really can't get them all into this video, but just some of the highlights. He has a chapter on blessed are the distant. That is, blessed are the people who aren't quite ready to stand right up next to Jesus and be known for being associated with him, but who are still sort of following him around, like Zacchaeus getting up into the tree and looking at what's going on. These people really have a lot going for them. One of the things that he says is that atheists, and a lot of this book is about atheists, often have more faith in Jesus, faith in God, than they're willing to admit. And just their sheer curiosity, interest in observing shows that they have more faith and perhaps less doubt than a lot of the people who are in churches, in religious settings where Jesus is celebrated. Another one-liner that I like is that he talks about the media being the religion, the current religion of the Western world. It's just this thought that, well, it may not be true, but it seems like there's a lot of truth to it, that how we react to what the media do and put out, which would include YouTube and these sort of simple videos that I do, but things that are way more produced than this, obviously, that is really the most significant religion that we have in Europe and in the Western world. Another thing that I like about the book is its analysis of atheism. Halík is a sociologist, or is a professor of sociology, and he says that as a person who follows Christ, he believes that atheism has a really good critical function. It can point out problems rather well. He says, however, that it's too hasty in its analysis. It sort of points to God being distant, God being absent, but he says that what he wishes for his atheist brothers and sisters around the world is that they would simply be a bit more patient. And he says, aside from this critical function, atheism has tended to not be very good in the metaphysics department, that is, in its overall understanding of reality, and some of its most obvious forms, such as Marxism or positivist humanism, haven't really amounted to a whole lot for us and haven't done a lot for us intellectually. There's a philosopher who I like who says that the usual idea is that we should believe our doubts and doubt our beliefs, and that's the way that we move forward in life. But he says we should also believe our beliefs and doubt our doubts, that every so few days we should switch it around, and that's really the way that we're going to move forward. So critical function is only going to help if we're also critical about our criticalness, and that we also accept that we have to live in some way, we have to have beliefs to do that kind of living, and we're going to have to make some sorts of judgments to structure our lives. So I'm not sure I want to make any sort of critical statements about this book in particular. It's not my favorite all the way through. There are some things that I'm not quite happy about, but I think there's just so much good in this, so much of value, both as a literary book, something with its style, with Halík's posture, and thirdly with the content, that I just think that so many people should read it. It's interesting that it's sort of written for two kinds of people. It's both written for people who are on the fringes of belief and followership of Jesus, but it's also written for people who are people of faith, people who do follow Jesus, but who need to understand better what it means to be a person who is on the fringe. And so it has that kind of double function. Well, that's it for today's Pensies. I hope that you go check out Tomáš Halík. I think there's some good videos of him out there, and check out his book, Patience with God. Let me know too if you like this vlogging type of thing, that I walk around and show some different locations. I'm not so sure about it. It's awkward enough to talk to a camera on your own or at all, and to be walking around in public and doing it is even more awkward, but we'll see. I always say at the end of these that you can subscribe and like this video, comment. I'm always a little torn about that, but let's do it differently and just say, don't subscribe, unsubscribe, don't like the video, just let it be what it is, and I will see you then next time in the next Pensies.
We're alive for another chance to find a heartbeat and keep on dancing. And finally I'm seeing that today is my happiest day.